You stand at the edge of a forest that doesn't appear on maps. The trees ahead stretch toward the heavens like ancient cathedral spires, their bark shimmering faintly as if soaked in moonlight and memory. You take a breath. It smells like wild thyme, old books, and something older than either. A warmth in the soil greets your bare feet, and the air hums softly, not with sound, but the sensation of being remembered. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. I have always wondered whether I am genuinely helping people drift to sleep, so it just checks out. Now, dim the lights, maybe fluff your pillow, and get comfortable in your bed. Adjust the volume and brightness of your device as per your comfort. Soften your breath, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are not exactly awake anymore, but you're not asleep either. You've stepped onto the whispering path, a trail known to dreamers, poets, and perhaps a few too curious philosophers. The path doesn't begin. It continues, as if you've always been walking it, and only now become aware. Above you, the stars shimmer in strange constellations, shapes you don't recognize, and yet feel familiar. There's the falcon's crown, the river that rewinds, the watcher's hand. Not even seasoned astronomers agree on what these constellations meant. Some say they were drawn by gods themselves. Others, that they are merely mirrored dreams of lost civilizations. Historians still argue whether the ancient Greeks adapted their constellations from older Babylonian skies or saw their own gods in the stars by chance. The path you follow is lined with tall olive trees, and each one seems to whisper as you pass. Not words exactly, but sighs, soft, like a mother humming a lullaby to a child she knows will never wake. You step over a root that seems to pulse slightly, not threatening, just alive, like the earth itself is paying attention tonight. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolls, but it's not ominous. It's the kind of thunder that feels like a warm drum beat, as though the sky itself has a heartbeat. You think of Zeus, of course. The name comes easily, but the image in your mind isn't the roaring god of tempest and fury. It's a man, older than time, sitting beneath a great tree with lightning asleep in his lap. More on him soon. You walk. The path glows slightly underfoot, as though remembering steps from long ago, maybe even your own. You reach a curve where the trees part, revealing a stream. The water is still, yet it flows, backwards and forwards at once. You lean down and notice it reflects not your face, but moments, flashes from old myths. A winged horse rising from foam, a labyrinth humming with riddles, a woman made of shadows and honey. All of it, echoes of Olympus. There is a rock beside it, quiet offerings to gods who listened only in silence. The tradition is lost now, or perhaps renamed. Historians speak of these rites as symbolic gestures, but some archaeologists whisper of traces of olive oil still found in dry rock hollows, hidden high in the hills of forgotten islands. And still, the water sings. In the rustling trees above you, an owl hoots, not with alarm, but with soft approval. A presence flickers nearby. Not seen, not heard, only sensed. Something that has noticed your arrival and approved it. Not all travelers are allowed here. The forest sighs once more, and suddenly, everything slows further. Do you remember being a child, half asleep on a car ride home, and the streetlights passed in slow motion, like stars through curtains? That's what this moment feels like. The very air wraps around you like a blanket stitched from sleep and wonder. There's movement behind the trees now, not creatures, memories. A goddess brushing her hair with a comb made from starlight. A boy, mortal but foolish, stealing a golden apple. A mountain lifting its head to listen. The whispering path leads to Olympus, yes. But Olympus is not just a place atop a mountain. It's a rhythm, a way of feeling the world. To walk toward it is to walk toward myth, not as a story you once heard, but as a dream you are beginning to remember. A soft glow catches your eye to the left, a doorway made not of wood or stone, but of stillness itself. Like reality has thinned, and you can now step through. You rise. You don't question. You trust. As you cross the threshold, a voice, gentle, female, and vast, speaks not into your ears, but directly to your breath. Not all who ascend remember, but all who remember dream forever. You smile, unknowingly. Behind you, the stream continues to ripple, capturing the last trace of your reflection. Ahead, the path slopes gently upward. The thunder returns, closer now, but still calm. A hill rises, crowned by a single tree, and beneath it waits the one you've heard in every story thunder ever told. It is time to meet Zeus, not as the world knows him, but as he truly waits to be remembered. You begin the ascent up the golden hill, and the air shifts. It thickens, like walking into warm honey or the center of a slow-spoken secret. The thunder you heard before is near now, not loud, but pulsing, rhythmic, like the echo of a distant waterfall inside the sky itself. At the top, you see him. Zeus does not sit on a throne of lightning. There are no flashing bolts in his hands, no dramatic wind tearing through the clouds, no winged beasts at his feet. Instead, he rests beneath a tree whose bark gleams with faint veins of silver. The tree bends slightly over him, as though sheltering its own maker. The leaves shimmer, not with light, but with memory, each one humming quietly with stories too old to be spoken aloud. Zeus looks at you, not with judgment nor expectation, but with the kind of knowing reserved for those who've outlived even their own legends. You approach slowly. Each step feels heavier, not from fear, but from the weight of awareness. You realize, this is the sky, resting. This is power, at peace. He gestures for you to sit. No words, just a nod, as if you've been expected for a long time, but he was in no rush. Gods, after all, measure time differently. As you sit beside him, a breeze carries the scent of rain before it falls, clean, ancient, laced with ozone and laurel. Zeus speaks finally, but only 3 words. The storm sleeps, and somehow That is enough to quiet the part of you that was still trying to understand. His voice is low, deep, the kind of voice you'd expect from the sky itself, if the sky had grown tired of shouting and had instead chosen to whisper. He begins to hum, not a melody, a current, a vibration that runs under your skin and around your ribs. You close your eyes and see flashes, not of wars or wrath, but of beginnings. A cradle of clouds, a baby wrapped in goatskin, hidden on Crete, a mountain swallowing storms to protect a child from his father. You see Rhea, the mother who defied Cronus, hiding her infant among nymphs and goats and trees that sang lullabies. Historians still debate whether the story of Zeus's infancy was myth or metaphor, some suggesting it symbolizes political upheaval in Minoan Crete, others that it was a memory of secret temples tucked into mountain caves. But here, you feel it as truth. Zeus is not merely king, he is survivor, and he became ruler not through conquest, but through restoration. He overthrew the chaos of his father, yes, but with siblings at his side. Hades and Poseidon, each offered a realm, each bound by oath. As you listen, you notice something curious carved into the tree's bark, a simple spiral, small and unassuming. It hums, and you realize it's a portal of sorts, memories echoing outwards. You place your palm upon it. Suddenly, you see him not as a god, but as a man, sitting alone after storms, watching mortals from the clouds, not judging, just wondering. He loves them in a way gods rarely admit, loves their laughter and their stubbornness, loves the way they keep lighting fires, even when the rain comes. Did you know there are temples to Zeus in places that rarely see thunder? One in Libya, Zeus Ammon, where the desert whispers instead of roars, and another in Dodona, where oak leaves murmured prophecy. Yes, a talking tree, real or metaphorical. Scholars still argue, but what matters now is that it reminds you of this tree, the one beneath which Zeus now hums quietly to himself. He breaks the silence again. They always think of me as wrath, he says softly. But I've waited lifetimes just to see a child laugh in the rain. You don't know how to respond, so you don't. You just sit, and the silence folds around both of you like a warm woolen cloak. Then, gently, Zeus reaches up and plucks a leaf from the silver-veined tree. He offers it to you. As you take it, it shivers slightly in your palm, and you hear, briefly, 1,000 storms, all crying out and all falling silent at once. The leaf fades into gold dust. You may go, he says, but take this. And he taps your forehead once, with a finger that carries thunder softened by age. And remember, the sky isn't angry. It's just loud when it's lonely. You rise, knees a little shaky, heart not from fear, but from fullness. The tree sighs, the hill nods, and as you begin to descend, a soft rain begins, gentle drops, like kisses from the clouds. You look back once. Zeus is gone. Only the tree remains, and a single new spiral etched into its bark. It wasn't there before. The path continues, softer now, lined with petals. Up ahead, through a veil of shifting blue mist, a marble arch rises from the grass, covered in owls and olive branches. A single lamp burns on its edge, casting light without flame. You step forward. You are about to enter a grove where Athena once turned silence into thought, and thought into peace. The mist curls around your ankles like silk threads from a dream not yet finished. The air here is cooler, feather light, brushed with hints of lavender and crushed mint. As you pass beneath the marble archway, it feels less like walking forward, and more like falling gently into memory. You have entered Athena's grove. There are no walls, but you feel enclosed, held. The olive trees here grow taller than any you've seen, their trunks smooth and straight, their silver-green leaves trembling faintly in the hush. Beneath them, owls perch in absolute stillness, their eyes half closed, as if dreaming with purpose. The ground is blanketed in pale moss. Your footsteps make no sound. In the center of the grove, rising from a shallow spring, is a pedestal. On it rests a single bronze helm shaped like a shell, its edges curled in wisdom. Beside it, a spear rests in the earth, not as a threat, but as a marker, a reminder. A woman kneels nearby, cloaked in blue-gray cloth that seems stitched from the sky before sunrise. Her face is turned toward a flowering olive branch, fingertips brushing its petals as though listening to it breathe. This is Athena, born from thought, not womb, sprung full-grown from her father's head after a battle of ideas, not swords. And yet, the stories often forget her gentleness. They forget the quiet, the stillness, the way she builds before she ever strikes. Historians continue to puzzle over her origins. Was she purely Greek, or absorbed from older Near Eastern goddesses like Neith of Egypt? Some argue her wisdom is borrowed. But here, now, in her grove, you understand. Athena is not borrowed. She is become. She speaks, not with her mouth, but with her gaze. You seek Olympus, it says. Then let your thoughts quiet. Let your mind breathe. You realize, for the first time in a long while, how loud your inner world has been. Lists, worries, regrets, questions you've carried too long. Athena places one hand on the surface of the spring. The ripples spread outward in perfect circles, and your memories begin to soften. She shows you a memory, not yours, but someone else's. A girl in Athens, hunched over a clay tablet, pressing symbols into soft wax. Her name is lost to time, but the wisdom she passed on, the method, the patience, the fire of curiosity, that remains. Athena has watched thousands like her. Philosophers with ink-stained robes, soldiers who chose restraint, politicians who dared to speak reason in the heat of anger, all hers. And yet, she has never been warm. Revered, yes, feared occasionally, but loved only rarely. You see another vision, flickering briefly. Hephaestus, the smith god, casting his eyes toward her across firelight. A silent devotion, never returned. Even gods ache. Athena looks toward you again and says, softly, Not all wisdom is knowing. Some is listening. Then she gestures toward a tree, taller than the others. Its trunk splits into 3 distinct paths, each leading into different corners of the grove. One is marked with a scroll, another with a sword, and the last with a mirror. She nods. You must choose. You walk toward the mirror path, feeling its pull. Not vanity, but truth. The kind of truth that doesn't seek to win, just to be known. The path winds gently, and at its end stands a circular stone platform with a single oval-shaped mirror resting on it. Its surface ripples like water, and as you peer into it, you don't see your face. You see your mind, as a garden. Some parts are dry, others overgrown, some flowering, some cracked, but alive, so very alive. You breathe in, and when you exhale, Athena is there beside you, placing a single olive blossom into your palm. Its petals feel like silk, but they carry weight. The weight of choice, of clarity. Plant this, she whispers, when you are ready to know yourself. Then she is gone. You return through the winding grove, the owls watching with curious approval. The helm and spear remain untouched. But as you pass, the water of the spring rises briefly, not into a splash, but into words. To fight is easy. To build is divine. A soft gust of wind parts the trees, revealing a new path ahead. This one glows with a softer light, as if reflecting the moon itself. Petals float in the air, not falling, just drifting. You step into it. The scent of salt and roses grows stronger. You hear laughter, gentle, layered, echoing like waves kissing distant shores. You are about to meet Aphrodite, not the goddess of seduction or scandal, but of longing, of beauty that whispers instead of shouts, of love that lingers long after it's gone. The path before you softens into sand, pale and warm beneath your feet, like a memory of the shore. The air shimmers slightly, touched by rose and salt, yes, but also something harder to name. The scent of first glances, of love letters never sent, of dreams folded into old linens and hidden in cedar drawers. You are no longer in the grove. You are at the mirror lake, where stillness has depth, and every reflection holds more than it reveals. Across the silver-blue surface of the water stands a figure. She does not walk. She arrives. One moment the lake is undisturbed, and the next, Aphrodite is there. She wears a robe the color of a dawn you've almost forgotten. Her hair moves as though underwater, and her eyes, when they meet yours, make you feel seen entirely, even the parts you've hidden from yourself. She speaks without moving her lips. Her words are like tides, felt before heard. All beauty is longing. All longing is love. All love is unfinished. The lake behind her ripples, and you glimpse images, not of war or glory, but of touch. A hand brushing another at a market stall. A glance held too long during a passing storm. Two souls dancing on a rooftop as lightning kisses the hills in the distance. Aphrodite is not the goddess of desire as we often imagine her. She is the ache before the kiss, the silence after a song ends, the exact moment when you realize you've fallen and it's too late to stop it. Historians often reduce her to Venus, tied to Roman sculptures and scandal. But she's older, possibly born from ancient Eastern goddesses like Ishtar or Astarte. Her origins are wrapped in sea foam and mystery. Some say she was born from the sea itself, others that she stepped out of it already crowned. You watch now as the lake glows faintly, and from its center rises a shell, large enough to cradle a body. Upon it lies a story carved in coral. A goddess rose from sea and silence, not to tempt, but to remind. Aphrodite reaches into the lake and lifts a tiny vial of pearled perfume. She places it into your hand. You open it. The scent is familiar, strangely personal. You can't quite place it, but it's the way a lover's scarf smelled on a cold day. The scent of flowers that bloomed where you kissed someone goodbye. It's nostalgia, bottled. She nods. No words. You kneel at the lake's edge. Your reflection stares back, but something is different. There is softness in your eyes. Forgiveness, maybe. Suddenly, the water darkens, not ominously, but like a curtain lowering to reveal another stage. You see her now, not just the goddess, but the woman, Aphrodite, alone. She walks among mortals not to be adored, but to feel. She has loved deeply. Gods, mortals, artists, fools. Each love she gives away, knowing it may not last. And yet, she loves still. A brief vision overtakes you. Hephaestus, watching her from the forge, his fingers trembling with gentleness. Ares, tracing the curve of her jaw with storm-dusted hands. Adonis, fading like dusk into her arms. Anchises, human and terrified, yet honored. And yet, Aphrodite never keeps them. She smiles sadly at you, then presses her palm to your forehead. Warmth floods through you, not heat, but glow. A bloom opening in the chest. You feel everything. Love you've had, love you've lost, love still waiting. She whispers now, barely audible. The heart does not break. It opens wider. She offers one final gift, a mirror the size of your palm. Its surface is smooth, but reflects not faces, but truths. As you gaze into it, it shows you someone you love, but not as they are, as they feel when they feel loved by you. It is humbling. You pocket the mirror, not to use often, just when you forget. Aphrodite steps backward into the lake, and as she disappears, the water does not splash. It folds, like silk over a sleeping child. And then she is gone. But the air still hums with her. You look around, and the trees return, softly. They were always there, just waiting behind the curtain of mist. The sand becomes moss again. The light deepens to a peach-colored glow. Up ahead, you hear a single note. Not a voice, not a bird. A string, It wavers in the air like sunlight through a prism. Apollo is waiting, but not in his temple. He is among ruins, yes, but not ruined. Just quiet, waiting to be heard again. The moss under your feet begins to warm, tinged gold with evening light. Or is it morning? Here, time doesn't behave. It curls around your ankles like a cat and forgets itself. You step through a broken stone arch, its vines draped like sleepy arms, and you enter what once must have been a temple, though no signs remain. Just fragments, pillars leaning like old friends, walls with faded sun motifs, a single harp string humming in the breeze. This is where Apollo lives now, not in the glory of golden chariots or fire-lit altars, but in the stillness that comes after. The scent here is warm and dry, like sun on parchment, the citrus skin of late summer oranges, and just the faintest trace of beeswax and music. Not the music of concerts or choirs. Something older. A single note held too long. A pause that remembers. You see him, sitting on a marble slab worn smooth by time. His back is straight. His lyre rests beside him. And though his eyes are closed, you know he's aware of you. He speaks, not to you exactly, but near you. Even light forgets how to shine when no one listens. There is no bitterness in it, just truth. A soft kind, the kind that doesn't shout or correct. Apollo, god of light, prophecy, music, plague, and healing. A complicated resume, if you think about it. Historians marvel at his duality, how the same God who sent plagues also healed them. The same God who flayed a man alive for challenging his music also gave mortals the first hymns of hope. And yet here, he is none of those contradictions. He is simply tired, not weary, not defeated, but peaceful in the way that only gods who have seen too much can be. He gestures to a crumbling statue of himself, half broken, lichen growing across the cheeks. They used to carve me into perfection, he says, but I always preferred the cracked ones, more honest. A breeze blows. A faint melody rides it. You follow the sound to a pile of old instruments, some cracked, some whole. You reach for a lyre, and it hums in your hands before you even strum. You play one note. The entire ruin seems to sigh. Then Apollo speaks again, eyes still closed. Music does not exist in notes, but in silence between them. You feel your throat tighten. You remember songs you once loved, ones that made you cry without understanding why. That feeling is here now, floating, waiting. He rises slowly and walks toward a sunlit patch of stone. There, etched into the marble, is a map of stars. Not as they are, but as they were. Some constellations no longer exist in our skies. Some never did. Scholars still debate whether the Greeks had advanced astronomical knowledge or simply poetic imaginations. Some claim this map shows a planet lost to myth, Phaeton, a world that once danced too close to the sun. Real or not, it makes you wonder. Apollo crouches beside the map and brushes a hand across one cluster. The stars flicker, briefly, in the air above. Once, I sang to the stars, he says, and they sang back. He looks at you, smiles gently. His face is tired, yes, but radiant, like a candle near its end, burning softer, truer. He offers you something now, not an object, a memory. You see a boy, alone in a city filled with noise, strumming a guitar in secret on a rooftop. Not perfect, not brave, but honest. A hymn born from loneliness. That boy was heard, not by crowds, but by something vast, something old. And Apollo had listened. He touches your chest, and for a brief moment, you feel your heartbeat sync with music, not from outside, but from deep within. A rhythm older than drums, the kind we carry in our sleep. Your song isn't over, he says, but don't wait for applause to sing it. You want to thank him, but he's already sitting again, eyes closed, waiting for the next note. The sun begins to set, or rise, and golden light spills over the ruins like a blanket woven from warm honey and childhood. You walk past him, and the wind plays your note once more. It's different now, deeper, fuller. The path ahead is marked by glowing embers. You follow them, and soon you hear the low hum of fire. Not loud, not wild, controlled, reverent. The temperature rises, not uncomfortably, but like stepping into a forge that breathes. The ground turns to stone. Iron tools hang from tree branches like wind chimes. You are approaching the forge of Myene, and within it waits Hephaestus, the god who shapes what's broken into what can never be broken again. You step carefully now. The stones beneath your feet are warm, not searing, not sharp, just alive. They pulse faintly, as though they remember being lava once, flowing freely down mountains long since silenced. Ahead, a gentle red glow spills from a hollow in the hillside, dancing softly across the trees. The leaves here are tougher, their edges singed with soot. Flowers bloom from cracks in the rock, orange and crimson blossoms that smell faintly of metal, of earth after rain, and of things made. You have entered the forge of Myene. Not many remember the name. Myene was said to be the first fire gifted to mortals, not by Prometheus, as the grand myths tell, but by an unnamed blacksmith who shaped warmth into a tool before it was ever a weapon. Some say it was Hephaestus himself in disguise. The forge doesn't roar, it hums. It sounds like distant bellows, like coals breathing, like hammers paused mid-strike, waiting for the right moment. You step into the stone archway, ducking slightly, though the ceiling opens wider the further you go, as if the space grows with your awe. And there he is, Hephaestus, the god of fire, of smiths, of invention and imperfection, but not how you'd expect. He is not monstrous, not hunched and twisted. His leg limps slightly, yes, but it carries him with surprising grace. His hands, large and scarred, move with tenderness as he polishes a blade so old it looks more like a memory than a weapon. He doesn't look up. "Most come to me last," he murmurs. "But you come now. That's something." You hesitate. He notices. It's all right. Fire scares those who haven't needed it. You move closer. The forge is surrounded by half-finished things. a harp strung with thunder, a sword that hums lullabies instead of threats, a cup that never stays full unless it's shared. Hephaestus gestures to a stool. You sit. It's warm, smooth, and carved with symbols, some Greek, some not. Historians still wonder how much of Hephaestus's story was real. Was he an imported god, brought by Anatolian traders? Was his limp symbolic of imperfection made divine? Scholars bicker, but here, in his forge, there is no debate. He is real, and so is his sorrow, and so is his strength. He places a lump of raw metal into the fire. It glows gently, like a heartbeat. They called me ugly, he says, with a smile that isn't bitter. But I shaped their crowns, their chariots, their cities. You watch the fire. It's different from normal fire. It doesn't crackle or spit. It listens, like it knows what it must become. Hephaestus hands you a small piece of metal. It's cool at first, then warms in your hand. Make something, he says. It doesn't matter what. Just mean it. You stare at the metal, and as you do, you think of something. Not a weapon, not a tool. You press your fingers into it slowly. You shape a pendant, simple, round, imperfect. But inside, you press your own memory, a moment of failure, of shame, and beside it, the moment you got back up. The metal cools. Hephaestus takes it from you, holds it to the light, nods once, and then smiles. Not politely, genuinely. A slow, rare, quiet smile. That's it, he says. That's what gods forget. That to make is to love your scars. You feel the pendant tug toward your chest. It binds itself to you, not as a chain, but as a weight you're willing to carry. Hephaestus turns back to his forge. His fingers trace the edge of a winged sandal, half finished. He mutters, "Hermes owes me for this one." You almost laugh. You don't. But he hears it in your breath and smirks. The forge dims slightly. He raises a hand. Not a goodbye, but a benediction. Make, even if it breaks. Especially then. The walls around you shift again. Heat softens into breeze, stone into soil. The fire lingers in your chest, quietly. And now, in the distance, you hear wind through wheat, the rustle of golden fields stretching far beyond sight. A mother's song, a daughter's echo, a harvest born of both love and loss. You are about to walk into Demeter's domain, where sorrow and abundance hold hands, and farewell becomes a kind of grace. The forge's warmth fades gently behind you, giving way to a breath of cool air scented with grain, crushed grass, and ripe figs warmed by the sun. You walk through a small archway woven from bent stalks of barley and gold leaf vines. With every step forward, the stone path beneath you dissolves into soft earth, and soon your feet sink slightly into soil, still warm from the day's sun. Welcome to Demeter's domain. Before you, endless fields ripple like golden oceans. Stalks of wheat sway slowly, not from wind, but from memory. the kind of movement that comes when the world itself exhales. There is no horizon here, only light, grain, and time folded softly into the folds of a mother's hands. The sky is a gentle amber. Birds wheel lazily above, calling to each other in a language older than speech. Somewhere nearby, you hear a wooden flute, not played, but remembered. Its notes rise like dust in late summer. At the heart of the field stands Demeter. She does not wear a crown. Her robe is the color of straw, her hands stained green from tending. Around her waist, a length of red cloth, worn thin by years of tying and retying. She is kneeling in the soil, pressing a seed into the earth. She looks up only once to nod at you, then returns to her work. You kneel beside her without words. It feels correct. She speaks after a long silence. Her voice is deep and soft, like bread baking or old lullabies hummed over cradles no longer there. You eat because I weep. You sleep because I forgive. You look to her hands. They are rough and worn, but every movement is deliberate, loving. She places another seed in the soil. Every harvest is a goodbye. You think of Persephone, her daughter, her sorrow. The myth so often told in pieces, that she was stolen, that she returned. That winter came because a mother could not bear the silence. But here, Demeter tells a different truth. She shows you a vision. A young girl running through these very fields, laughing, the sun in her hair. And then, stillness. Not a scream, just absence. And the earth froze in grief. Historians still debate the origin of the Persephone cycle. Some link it to pre-Greek agricultural rites, an ancient explanation for the seasons. Others believe it masks a deeper human truth, the need to make sense of loss by weaving it into the rhythm of life. Demeter presses a final seed into the soil and leans back, brushing her brow with the back of her wrist. She looks at you now, fully. You lose what you love, she says, and yet you wake up the next morning and plant again. That is what makes you holy. You want to speak, but your throat closes, not from sadness, but from understanding. She reaches behind her and offers you a small pouch of seeds. At first glance, they seem ordinary, but each one is warm to the touch and hums softly in your palm. Plant one when you need to start again, she says, and plant one when you're ready to let go. Then she rises, and as she walks through the field, the grain bows slightly, not in fear, not in worship, but in kinship. You remain for a moment longer. The breeze carries whispers. You hear women singing together in ancient dialects. You hear the sound of a harvest festival, laughter, flutes, stomping feet, the joy of a good season, and beneath it all, a quiet promise. She always returns. Demeter disappears into the grain, her shape fading into light and sound and earth. You look to the edge of the field now, where a narrow path winds through tall grass, pressed down by footsteps you cannot see. The soil is different here, darker, looser, almost sand. A trail of feathers and sandals mark the way. The wind changes. It sharpens just a bit. It smells of parchment, citrus, and trickery. you hear a soft laugh echo, boyish, fast, and far away. Hermes is near, and the road ahead is about to shift beneath your feet, because he does not walk straight lines. He walks between dreams and waking, between words and meaning, between gods and mortals. The fields behind you fade, not quickly, not suddenly, but like a lullaby ending one note at a time. The wind shifts again. It loses its rhythm. It begins to wander, and so do you. The path underfoot becomes uncertain, wriggling slightly like a thought just remembered wrong. The stones aren't lined up anymore. The trees, if they are trees, seem to shift when you aren't looking directly at them. This is no ordinary road. This is a liminal path, where direction is a rumor and time wears a mask. Welcome to the in-between. And who else would be waiting here but Hermes? You don't see him at first. That's how it goes. He sees you. He sees everything, even things you haven't realized you're thinking yet. But then, just when you've stopped trying to look, there he is, leaning against a crooked cypress tree, one foot tucked behind the other, a smile barely tugging at the corner of his mouth. He's younger than you imagined, or older, or both. His tunic flutters despite the still air, and his winged sandals, half-tied, seem to hum with impatience. "Late," he says casually, inspecting his fingernails. Then he winks. Or maybe early. It depends who's counting. He twirls his caduceus, a staff wrapped in twin serpents, which now and then flicker as if alive. Hermes is the messenger, the guide, the trickster. He is the god of roads and riddles, travelers and thieves, oaths and loopholes. He is the whisper that slips between syllables, the reason dreams get stranger just before morning. He begins to walk, and you follow instinctively. You pass by a fork in the path that wasn't there a moment ago. One side is lined with golden ivy, the other, shadows moving backward. Hermes takes neither. He leaves the path entirely and cuts through a patch of moss that seems to fold itself politely out of the way. "The secret to paths," he murmurs, "is knowing when they're lies." You emerge into a place that isn't quite a field, nor a room, nor a moment. It's something else, something you felt before but could never name. A memory, perhaps, that doesn't belong to you, a place between two breaths. There's a low wall, crumbling and ancient, a market stall with no goods, a candle that drips upward. He grins. "This is one of my favorites. It's a place that never happened, but almost did." Hermes crouches and draws a spiral in the dust with his finger. "People think I'm all about speed," he says. "But the truth is, I'm the god of pause." You watch as the spiral spins slowly, not from motion, but thought. You blink, and now it's a map. You blink again, and it's gone. He leans in close. "Every message you've ever whispered into your pillow and thought was lost, I heard it. I just didn't always deliver it." And suddenly, you understand. Hermes isn't just a god of getting there. He's the god of what might have happened. He holds the could-have-beens, the crossroads, the hesitation before the leap. Historians have tried to pin him down for centuries. Was Hermes once a fertility god? A cattle thief? A late addition to the Olympian 12? The records contradict themselves. That's just how he likes it. He lifts his staff and gently taps it against your forehead. Your eyes close, and you see a vision, not of Olympus, but of yourself, standing at a choice. Years ago, a turning point. Maybe it was something small, a job you didn't take, a train you missed, a word you held in your mouth too long. You never knew what would have happened. Now you do. You see what could have been. It's not better. It's not worse. It's just different. You open your eyes again. Hermes is watching you. He says gently, "Now you understand. It's not about the right path. It's about walking." He hands you a coin, small, tarnished, warm. "For the next crossing," he says. "You'll know when." Then he's gone. Just gone. No wind, no flash, no farewell. Just the sound of sandals somewhere impossibly far away, already skipping through someone else's dream. The path reforms itself, more stable now, but narrower, edged in silver bark and whispers. You sense it before you see her. A presence in the trees, watching, waiting. The air sharpens like moonlight on glass. Leaves hush. Animals hold their breath. You are not alone. Artemis walks this forest, and she does not walk with company. But tonight, she may let you follow. You step into a forest where silence wears a cloak of silver. The trees rise tall and straight, their bark smooth and pale, like bones bleached under a moon that never leaves. The light here doesn't fall from above. It seems to emerge from the trunks themselves, dim, bluish, like breath exhaled on a winter night. You feel it before you see her. Not fear, not awe, stillness. So complete that it feels like an emotion. A hush that enters your lungs and slows your thoughts. This is Artemis's realm, the quiet hunt, where no one speaks unless the forest speaks first. Your feet make no sound. The path is needle-soft, padded with pine and ash leaves that have never truly fallen. Time here does not progress. It waits. And then she appears. Not in front of you. Not from the shadows. She simply steps into your awareness, like a thought you forgot you'd had. Her hair is wild, pulled back by a leather strap. Her eyes shine not with fury or pride, but with clarity, the kind of focus that cannot be distracted. She does not smile. She does not frown. She simply sees you, entirely. Artemis is often told as the virgin huntress, goddess of wild things, protector of maidens. And yet here, in her own woods, she is none of those titles. She is something older. She is choice without permission. She is fierce grace. She turns and walks deeper into the trees. You follow. The animals don't scatter. They watch. A fox with 3 tails. An owl that doesn't blink. A deer made of mist and moonlight. You walk beside her through groves where no temples stand. only markers. Stones carved with half-names, offerings from people who asked for safety, or silence, or to be left alone. She stops near a pool, so still that it reflects not the sky, but your inner weather. You see yourself, yes, but also your fear. The fear you've never spoken aloud, the one shaped like freedom. She kneels by the water and dips a finger in. The ripples move outward, and with them, a story. A young woman running through this very forest. No weapons, no shoes, only determination. Behind her, voices, men shouting her name. She hides beneath a tree, trembling. Artemis appears, wordless, sudden. The next moment, silence. The girl lives. The men do not return. They call me cruel, Artemis says now, her voice low and steady, because I protect without apology. Historians continue to debate her worship. Some believe Artemis was once a fertility goddess, later hardened into a huntress by myth and necessity. Others say her cult in Brauron, where young girls offered their childhood garments, was a metaphor for transition, girl into woman, innocence into autonomy. You feel it now. She is not here to charm you. She is not romantic. She will not flatter you, but she will defend you. With blade, with silence, with presence. She rises and offers you a bow, not made of wood or metal, but light, a curve of pure moon. No string, no arrows. You won't need to fire, she says. Just carry it. The choice is the weapon. You accept it, and the bow curls gently in your hand, light as breath, heavy as principle. She steps away from the pool and walks to the edge of the woods, where shadows turn to mist. Her dogs, spectral and massive, appear from nowhere, flank her. One brushes past you. It smells like midnight storms and violets. She does not turn to say goodbye. She only lifts her hand and vanishes, folding into the forest like dew into grass. And now, ahead, the air changes once again. It thickens with moisture. A distant roar murmurs below the earth. You feel a tug, like tide pulling at your ribs. The path slopes downward. Slick rock replaces soil. The scent of brine, of coral, of old storms sleeping beneath new waves. You are being summoned, and not by invitation, but by nature itself. Poseidon waits below, not in rage, but in remembrance. And tonight, for the first time in centuries, he may allow you to see what he misses most. The trees fade behind you like ships into mist, and now you walk where roots do not grow. The air grows heavier, saturated with salt and the scent of old rain. Rain that fell before cities, before temples, before names. You descend a winding path carved into the side of a cliff. The stone is slick with algae, the color of deep emerald. The sky above disappears behind low clouds tinged with the colors of memory, slate gray, faded turquoise, silver like tears. Each step you take hums faintly underfoot, as if the cliffside still remembers when it was underwater. You reach the edge where land surrenders to sea. There is no shoreline. There is only Poseidon. Or rather, there is a figure standing where the waves begin, half shrouded in rising mist, his body tall and sculpted from sea glass and storm. He doesn't look at you right away. He is gazing at the horizon, not with longing, not with pride, but with something deeper: regret. Poseidon is rarely portrayed this way. He is remembered as tempestuous, jealous, quick to wrath, hurling tridents and quaking earth. But here, in this quiet cove, known only to waves and dreams, he is something else entirely. He is a man who misses something. He finally turns, and his eyes are green, not the color of envy, but of kelp light filtered through centuries. They hold entire oceans, but also a question. "What do you think the sea wants?" he asks. You don't know how to answer. He nods. Neither do I. He walks with you along the water's edge, but there is no sand. Only smooth blue rock etched with symbols shaped like tide marks. He kneels and places his hand on one. The rock glows faintly, and a memory surfaces. Not his, not yours, but the sea's. You see a mortal, a sailor, alone in a storm, shipwrecked, afraid, praying not to Zeus or Apollo, but to the sea itself, to Poseidon. And Poseidon heard, not with mercy, but with presence. "I didn't save him," he murmurs now, "but I watched. I remember." He gestures to the waves. "You think the sea forgets? It remembers everything." The tide rises. You feel it around your ankles. Not cold, not wet, just there, like being touched by a very old story. He shows you more memories in the water. A fisherman returning from war, kissing the sea before kissing his wife. A city drowned not in wrath, but in sorrow, when no one listened. A girl standing on a cliff, shouting poems into the wind, believing no one heard. He did. Historians trace Poseidon's worship to Mycenaean Greece, long before Homer ever carved his name into the epics. Some say he was once a horse god. Others whisper he was the earth shaker before he was ruler of the seas. But here, he is not myth or deity. He is simply what waits beneath every wave, the witness. He raises a conch shell, ornate and gleaming, carved with stories in spirals. He places it into your hand. "This won't protect you," he says, "but it will let you listen." You lift it to your ear. You hear not a roar, but voices. Laughter in taverns near harbors, songs sung while rowing, cries shouted across decks, prayers, profanities, love letters whispered into bottles, stories left unfinished. "I keep their stories," Poseidon says, "because no one else wants the ones that drown." The tide begins to pull back now, not to retreat, just to breathe in. Poseidon's form begins to fade with it. His trident, resting in the mist behind him, dissolves into spray. You say nothing. He nods once. That is enough. You turn away from the sea. The path back is different, softer. The stone gives way to moss again. The scent of salt is replaced by wood smoke and warm bread. You feel your shoulders lighten. The sound of the waves is replaced by crackling flame. A small house appears at the end of the path, round, low, lit from within. It doesn't shine. It glows. There is no door, just a hearth. And beside it, sitting with folded hands and a steady gaze, waits Hestia. She is the goddess no one fears, and yet every story begins and ends with her fire. You walk toward the house as though returning, not arriving. The door isn't there because it doesn't need to be. The warmth within has always been meant for you, the kind that lives not in flames, but in places where the world becomes small, safe, and still. This is Ilion Hollow, the quietest place on Olympus, a curve in the realm where the divine doesn't need temples or thrones, only warmth. It's said no one remembers building it, that it appeared the day Hestia chose to sit rather than reign. Inside, the hearth glows low, not orange or red, but golden, like melted candlelight. A fire that doesn't burn, but listens. Its crackle is steady, like the sound of someone gently turning pages in a well-loved book. Hestia sits on a simple stool near the fire, her hands wrapped around a clay cup. Her robe is plain, cream-colored, lined with soot where her wrists brush the hearth. She is the only god who has never left Olympus, never waged war, never chased power, never demanded offerings. And yet, every offering begins and ends with her. You sit beside her. She doesn't speak right away, and you understand. Silence is her language. It's not awkward, it's welcoming. She passes you a cup. It's warm, and the scent rises gently. Rosemary, honey, and something harder to place. Perhaps memory steeped in quiet joy. She finally speaks. I keep the flame. The others forget it's the center. Her voice is soft, slow, with the calm cadence of someone who knows you're not in a rush, who values pause over point. In myths, she is the firstborn and last fed, the one who stepped aside when the 12 Olympians were counted. Some say she gave her throne to Dionysus to avoid conflict. Historians still puzzle over this. Why would a deity of such constant presence be so often absent in story? Because Hestia doesn't live in tales. She lives in moments. The hand lighting a lantern at dusk. The meal shared without fanfare. The warmth of a home that smells like cinnamon and clean linens. She gazes into the flame. And you do too. In it, you see flashes of your own life, not dramatic ones, not triumphs or heartbreaks, but the quiet ones. A cold morning when you tucked the blanket tighter. A friend's voice in a kitchen, laughing softly. The way sunlight once pooled across a carpet just so, and for no reason at all, it made you feel whole. These are Hestia's temples. She reaches into the fire, not with fear, but with love, and draws out a tiny coal nestled in a bit of ash. She wraps it in soft cloth and places it in your palm. This won't keep you warm, she says, but it will remind you where warmth lives. You hold it, and somehow you understand. The fire does not burn. It returns, and you realize something beautiful and small. Hestia has never left because she is the part of Olympus that follows you home. She smiles, not widely, just enough to crease the corners of her eyes. You'll forget this part, she says. Most do. But one night, you'll light a candle, or stir soup, or laugh in a room with someone you love. and you'll feel me." She stands, brushes her palms on her robe, and opens a small window. Wind filters in, carrying the scent of grapes and crushed thyme. The night outside is no longer still. It sways. It sings. The air grows heady. Laughter rolls across the hills like wine down an empty glass. Lanterns flicker in the distance, soft red, golden, violet, floating gently in the air like fireflies with purpose. It is time to walk into the vineyard, where stories get blurry, truths dance barefoot, and gods tip their cups to the chaos of dreams. You are about to meet Dionysus, but not the wild god of madness they warned you about. Tonight, you'll find the dream weaver, the one who knows that sometimes joy is the deepest wisdom of all. The air ahead shimmers, sweet, heavy, and a little mischievous, the kind of scent that clings to old velvet and remembered parties. Crushed grapes, wild herbs, smoke from a fire that tells stories of its own. You step out of Elion Hollow, warmth still tucked quietly in your chest, and into a vineyard that doesn't end. This is Dionysus's domain. Not chaos, not drunken revelry, but release. The part of you that needs no justification to dance. The part of you that weeps when laughter comes too suddenly. The vines twist and loop overhead, forming living archways. Bunches of grapes shimmer in strange colors, violet, gold, even blue. Birds that do not exist in waking life flutter between them, singing lullabies in languages that feel familiar but cannot be spoken. There is no clear path. There's no need. You wander until you feel a rhythm forming beneath your feet, subtle and slow, like a song that already knows the shape of your heartbeat. And then you see him. Dionysus, reclining beneath a fig tree that leans just slightly too far, as if enchanted by the very idea of rest. His hair falls in messy curls, threaded with ivy and dried pomegranate blossoms. His eyes shine like mirrors left out in the sun too long. He raises a goblet, deep green, shaped like a tulip in bloom. "You made it," he says. "You must be thirsty." You take the goblet. It is warm, not hot, not cool, like breath against your lips. You drink. It is not wine. It is dream. And suddenly, your head is full of colors that don't exist in this world. Shapes that shift before they're formed. You laugh softly, though you don't know why. That's how it starts. Dionysus grins, with a giggle. By the time you realize it's truth, you're already dancing. He stands now, stretching, and his robe slips off one shoulder. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters here. Not rules, not names, not roles. Only the feeling. He leads you through the vineyard, past floating lanterns that bob gently in the air. Beneath each one, a scene. A man weeping into a bowl of figs, whispering a name he no longer remembers. A woman spinning in place, arms out, eyes closed. A crown of stars orbiting her brow. A child giggling as music pours from a flute with no holes. Dionysus lifts a vine like a curtain and gestures for you to step through. You enter a room with no walls, made entirely of wine barrels and silk drapery. A fire crackles in the center, but its flames are violet, its smoke curling into shapes of lost lovers and remembered joys. A small group gathers here. No one speaks, but all are present. They sip, they sway, they see each other. This, Dionysus whispers, is what they call madness, but I call it permission. Historians paint him two ways, either a liberator or a corrupter. A god of wine, yes, but also of theater, ritual, transformation. Some say his cults were born from old ecstatic rites of older Eastern gods. Others say he was late to Olympus, shoehorned in by politics. But here, now, he is none of those footnotes. He is truth unbuttoned, the joy that doesn't ask permission, the tears you didn't know you needed. He hands you another goblet. You hesitate. It won't undo you, he says gently. Only show you where you're undone. You sip. This time, the flavor is nostalgia. You feel yourself in places you forgot, on rooftops in rain, dancing in empty kitchens, standing barefoot in the middle of an impossible yes. He leans closer. The world makes you think joy must be earned. But I am the God who reminds you, you were born deserving it. Then he steps away. The lanterns dim. The music softens. A final violin hums a note so long it becomes silence. Dionysus fades into mist, smiling, barefoot, drunk on possibility. The vineyard shifts behind you, and ahead rises a stairwell carved from pearl and cloud. It leads to a palace, one you've seen only in dreams of justice, of fury, of gold braided into quiet power. A throne without a king, a queen who was never just a wife. Hera waits now, not to be worshipped, but to be understood. The vineyard breathes you out gently, like a sigh after laughter. The air sharpens, but not coldly, more refined, more exact, as if every molecule here has been considered. You approach the stairs. They rise slowly and steadily, carved from marble that gleams like mother of pearl. Each step hums faintly beneath your footfall. Not music, expectation. Above you, a palace looms, veiled in clouds and dignity. It is not gold, not extravagant. It is precise. Columns as straight as judgment. Gardens trimmed with the silence of practiced patience. Windows that open onto thunderless skies. This is not the home of a god. This is the domain of a queen. You step into the main hall and find Hera already seated, not on a throne, but on a wide stone bench wrapped in ivy and silk. Her posture is impeccable, but not stiff. She holds herself like someone who's been misunderstood for so long, she's no longer trying to explain. Her hair is dark, coiled in loops, pinned with feathers and crescent shapes. Her dress is white, not bridal, but sovereign. Her gaze finds yours and holds it, not in challenge, but in invitation. You've heard the stories, all the less flattering ones. The jealous wife, the vengeful queen, the woman wronged and roaring. She hears them too. It's a strange thing, Hera says softly, to be power, but only remembered as pain. She gestures to the garden beyond her. You walk together slowly. The hedges are grown into labyrinths. Peacocks stroll lazily, dragging shimmering eyes behind them. At the center is a fountain carved from rose quartz. It doesn't spout water, it holds reflections. As you peer in, you don't see yourself. You see her. You see Hera as a young goddess, standing beside Zeus before thunder had shaped him, crowning cities in his name, protecting women when no one else would, building laws from whispers, and being forgotten for every noble thing she ever did. They speak of my wrath, she says, but never my endurance. A breeze shifts, carrying the scent of myrrh and rain-soaked marble. She shows you another memory. A woman, mortal, unnamed, kneeling before a shrine, not in fear, but in desperation. She prays, not for love, but for respect. And Hera hears. She always has. Scholars argue about Hera's origins, whether she predates Zeus, whether she was once the supreme deity in a matriarchal pantheon overtaken by later narratives. Some even say she was once a goddess of seasons, tied to cycles of life and rule. But here, you realize, Hera is not attached to Zeus. Zeus was attached to her. She stops before a tall flowering bush. The petals are small and red, but sharp. Not thorns, warnings. They fear a woman who remembers her own strength, she says. So they call her bitter. I prefer the term undefeated. She turns to you, finally softening. You carry your own crown, even if you pretend it's too heavy. She removes a pin from her hair and hands it to you. It looks like ivory, but when you hold it, it pulses. It is not jewelry, it is authority, and it doesn't demand. It waits. Use this only when you must speak, she says, and cannot afford to whisper. Then she walks back toward her bench, peacocks parting for her without command. Her fingers brush the feathers gently. You pause. You expected coldness, formality. You found instead a goddess tired of being flattened into fable. The palace quiets behind you. And ahead, the air grows cooler, sharper, starlit. You are nearing the edge now, not of Olympus, but of everything. The wind carries voices again, but not loud, distant, echoing, layered. You will now step into stories within stories, those told long before the gods sat their thrones, the ones about titans, and the fragile, shimmering threads that connect mortals to the divine. The winds on Olympus had stilled. No longer did the high air curl with power, nor the clouds shiver at the thunder's whisper. Instead, the summit lay in a golden hush, a breath held by the world itself. Arion stood at the edge of the Temple of Time, its marbled bones wrapped in ivy and silence. The columns reached to the sky, yet carried no weight, for this was a place out of time, a place where the past was stitched beside the future, and even the gods came quietly, unsure of what they might find. Within, 3 women sat. They were neither young nor old, neither cruel nor kind, but simply true. They were the Moirai, the Fates, who spun and measured the thread of every life ever lived. Clotho, who spun the thread, Lachesis, who measured it, and Atropos, the one who cut it. Arion did not speak. His shadow fell across their loom like a question, and Clotho, with fingers like rain on silk, smiled softly. "You've come far," she said, her voice echoing with lullabies forgotten by the world. Lachesis lifted a thread. It shimmered like moonlight reflected in a tear. It was Arion's. "So thin in places," she mused, "and yet so strong." Atropos did not look up. Her shears rested beside her, silent, glinting. Arion, heart slow like evening tide, spoke at last. "I was born not of Olympus, but of fire and mortal pain. And yet I've crossed realms and rivers, bargained with gods, and faced the storm that sleeps beneath the world. I ask not for immortality. I ask not for glory. I ask only to rekindle the hearths of those who have none." The loom paused. Clotho stood and approached. She held his thread like a child's lock of hair, fragile and dear. "Then listen," she whispered. "There are truths that even gods forget." And with that, she turned the loom toward him, and Arion saw. He saw himself as a boy, barefoot in the forge, covered in soot, but laughing in the glow of a mortal fire. He saw the day he forged his first blade, not for war, but for the harvest, for cutting bread. He saw every choice he thought was small, every kindness he gave away for free. And he saw that the flame he sought to steal was already inside him. The gods had not forgotten the flame. They had never known it, because it had never belonged to Olympus. It had always belonged to man. The fates wove around him, not in threat, not in judgment, but in quiet reverence. For what he had brought to this mountain was not defiance, but remembrance. Then, without a word, Lachesis reached into the golden basket by her side and drew out a spool of thread not yet spun. She handed it to Arion. "Go," she said, smiling like dusk. "Spin your own ending." And for the first time, Atropos nodded. Arion descended the marble stairs of the Temple of Time, not as a thief nor a beggar, but as something altogether new, a reminder, a flame-bearer. The thread given by the fates pulsed gently in his hand, not glowing, not cold, but warm like a memory of spring. As he walked, the skies of Olympus began to shift. Clouds unraveled into ribbons, and the golden halls that once towered proudly began to fold into themselves, not vanishing, but becoming part of the wind. He passed Apollo, still playing his lyre beneath a laurel tree. The god looked up, and though his song did not cease, there was something softer in his eyes now. "You've changed them," he said simply. "Even me." Further down the slope, Aphrodite stood near a pool of silver water, her reflection scattered by ripples. She, who once dismissed mortals as fleeting shadows, reached out and touched Arion's arm. "For love to matter," she said, "it must be chosen. You remind us why we exist at all." He found Athena in her garden, the olive trees whispering riddles through their leaves. She no longer questioned his worth. Instead, she offered him a box, crafted of petrified wood and sealed with her crest. "For the world below," she said, "when the nights grow too long." And even Zeus, high on his cloud-wrapped throne, cast down a single bolt of lightning, not in anger, but as a blessing, a sign of respect from a god who rarely gave it. At the foot of Olympus, Arion turned once more. The mountain did not look like a palace now. It looked like a memory, vast, golden, a place between waking and sleep. He could feel it behind him always, but knew he no longer belonged there. Because the fire he sought was not meant to stay caged in marble halls, nor trapped in stories whispered by immortals. It was meant to return, to kitchens and cottages, to hearths and homes, to the silent places where hope was barely breathing. And so he descended, down past the river that remembered his name, past the forest where dryads sang his story to the wind, past the broken gate of the realm below, now mended with his courage. When he reached the edge of the mortal world, night had just begun to fall. The stars above shimmered faintly, like they too were holding their breath. Arion knelt and placed the spool of thread into the ground, where it melted like candle wax, and from it rose a soft, golden flame. Not roaring, not burning, but warm. And all across the world, unseen but deeply felt, a shift began. Fires that had gone out in lonely homes flickered back to life. The cold hearts of forgotten villages found themselves glowing with comfort once more. Children dreamed sweeter dreams, and even those who had lost everything felt a quiet warmth within them, as if someone had whispered, "You are not alone." Arion did not stay to be thanked. He walked gently into the night, a quiet figure with soot-stained hands and a heart full of starlight. And somewhere, far above, Olympus smiled. And now, with soft breath and gentle steps, we arrive at the final chapter of this myth beneath the moon. The world turned, as it always had, but something was different now. Not in the way that trees swayed or rivers flowed, but in the hush between things, in the silence after laughter, in the calm before sleep, where the story of Arion quietly took root. The gods returned to their hidden thrones, but they were not the same. Zeus no longer thundered just to be feared. He sat beside Hera more often, speaking not of power, but of balance. Apollo's melodies grew slower, more tender, not only songs of light, but lullabies for the forgotten. Aphrodite wandered among mortals now, leaving behind not passion, but kindness, the kind that finds a widow's door or a child's tear-streaked face. And Athena, she wrote Arion's tale in golden ink upon the walls of her mind, a story to be told not in battle, but in classrooms, in quiet talks beneath olive trees, when wisdom comes like a whisper instead of a war cry. As for Arion, no one ever saw him again, at least not clearly. But in every village where a fire burned steady through the night, they told tales of a man with forge-hardened hands who left warmth where he walked, who never asked for thanks, only that the flame be shared. He became myth, then memory, then something deeper, A feeling passed from one person to the next, unspoken but understood. Some said he lived among the stars now, his soul a spark that watched over the world. Others swore they saw him in dreams, quietly tending to hearths in the dark, making sure no one was left in the cold. And in the great halls of Olympus, in a quiet chamber few dared to enter, there burned a single lantern. Its flame was not from the gods, nor forged by magic. It was from Arion, the first mortal who reminded eternity what it meant to hope. That flame never flickered. It pulsed like a heartbeat, soft, steady, endless. And if, tonight, as you close your eyes, you feel a gentle warmth behind your ribs, a sense that no matter how dark the world becomes, a light still burns for you. That's him. That's the flame, the one that never ends.